And welcome back to Sports the NEMO Way, the Safeties episode, where we will be ranking our 5 greatest safeties of all time. And all 5 of us are here tonight. 2 episodes in a row. Let's go, guys. And let's. I don't think I have any other housekeeping, so let's get started. Drew, who is your 5th greatest safety of all time?
Paul Krause.
Oh, Paul Krause. I do not have Paul Krause.
I don't either, but it was close.
He's my number 5.
Right?
Yep, he's on my 5.
All right, well, I know Paul played in 60s and 70s, but he has 81 interceptions all time. Number 1 all time. We've talked about this before in the Vikings. He's an 8-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro. He has an NFL championship, which we figured this out after doing all of our football research, so we don't think we're down this rabbit hole, but that means they won. It's basically winning the NFC championship.
Right.
That's what that Vikings team did. Then they went on to lose in that Super Bowl.
Those were iconic teams, though, for that era of football.
The Purple People Eaters was the defensive line, and he was safety for those teams. So
yeah.
He was a great safety.
We've talked about it before. Yes, we've talked about how they were throwing a lot of interceptions back then. You could manhandle more, but at the same time, still get 81 interceptions.
81 is impressive.
He has 2 seasons of double digits. He has 12. His first year in the league, he has 12, and then later on he has a 10.
Mm-hmm.
He has a 6, an 8, 7, 5.
That's like 12 interceptions in 14 games?
Yeah. These are all 4.
Go back to the 12 days.
All but his last 2 years are 14-game seasons.
So, his first year in the league, he almost had an interception every game.
And he still played almost all the way through the entire 70s. And so, we're not talking at least like a 40s and 50s guy. Like, we've had conversations about other guys from way back in the day. He's at least a smidge bit more relevant than some of those guys.
Yeah.
We've had other guys from that same era make other really important lists, like Mean Joe Green and stuff like that.
The 60s and 70s, the early 60s and the beginning of the late 60s, but by the end of the 70s, you're starting to get more, we're getting close to more modern day football.
Things are opening up a little more.
We're not just 7 guys on the line and then 3 running backs in the backfield. We're starting to spread stuff out. It's not
mid to late 70s. Offenses started to throw the ball more down the field efficiently. Yeah. Passing games became less of a joke. Mm-hmm. You had Dan Faust throwing for 4,000 yards. You had, I think Bradshaw had a couple years where he slung it around and got like an MVP in the 70s and had a decent stats for 1 or 2 years. There were guys starting to do things. Yeah, Staubach.
Yeah. So we're starting.
We're probably missing a few guys.
I'm sure we are. Well, wasn't Archie Manning playing then?
Well, was Kenny Stabler playing then?
Kenny Stabler.
Yeah, Kenny Stabler.
Yeah.
Well,
so
there's Bengals quarterback.
Oh, O'Brien. Is it O'Brien?
Or Anderson?
Ken Anderson.
Anderson's probably playing towards the end of his career here.
Yeah.
The Dawson guy for the Chiefs, Lenny Dawson.
Yeah.
Was he that late?
He was in the first couple Super Bowls.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah, he went to Super Bowl 1 and 2, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lenny might. Yeah.
Well, he won that one.
He did win a Super Bowl. Wait, who?
The Dawson guy.
Right. Yeah, but that was like Super Bowl 3, 4.
I thought they won 5.
Been 4.
I thought they beat the Vikings in 5.
1 and 2 were
the Packers.
3 was the Jets, and I think 4 was back to the Chiefs Vikings.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, I didn't put Paul Krause on my Mount Rushmore because of his popularity, but his ability on the field was pretty damn good. And what I read, he seemed to be a decent tackler. Obviously, we don't have tackling stats,
which boggles my mind.
Yeah. So we don't have any for sure things, but it said that he would come down and tackle. And it's kind of like Drew said, it's just kind of hard to get past 81 interceptions, and he was contributing to a great team. So, I thought it was just a good pick.
He wasn't just a safety on that great team not doing anything.
He's a Hall of Famer. So. And it's the most interceptions ever. It's just, it's a nice thing to have on your resume.
Yeah.
And how many of us had him?
Me and Drew.
And Ray.
Oh, Ray.
So 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Uncle Doug Wade, was that your 5?
Yes.
Okay, so Uncle Doug, who's your 5?
Well, I was going to put an old guy on the list, and it was either going to be Krause or the guy that I did put, which is Larry Wilson.
Okay.
Larry had 52 interceptions, which not as much as Krause, but more than a lot of guys on the list. He also had 21 sacks, 8 touchdowns, He was 7-time All-Pro. 6 of them were first team, 1 second team, and 8 Pro Bowls. The reason I went with him instead of Krause was Larry Wilson also had a Defensive Player of the Year award.
I almost put him on my list because I heard the funniest and coolest story ever when I was reading about some of these guys. Larry Wilson played a game with 2 broken hands and got an interception. He had 2 broken hands at the same time that were completely wrapped up in whatever they used back then, and he got an interception in the game where he had 2 broken
The only thing
hands.
that would make it even cooler is if he was playing like in the cold.
Like-
You know how bad that would hurt to
Like-
knock down a pass with 2 broken hands?
He's playing in the
cold?
60s with 2 broken hands.
He
and he
came
picked
in,
off a pass.
He came in second in the MVP voting.
Like, that's nuts.
Who won the MVP?
That's a good
He was
question.
crazy good.
Because, I mean, obviously we're not going to be able to see it.
Bart Starr.
Okay.
Oh, Bart Starr.
That
yeah.
explains that.
That's how nuts. 2 broken hands
Yeah.
and got an interception. That's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's probably later on in the year, and if it's cold,
Oh, yeah, that would hurt. Like,
I mean, it already hurts enough. You know, when someone throws the ball hard and it's cold out,
Yeah.
it hurt.
Sure,
Could you
both-
imagine with your hand broken?
both of them. He had 2 broken hands.
Unless he caught it like this, he was probably like,
Yeah, he probably body caught it. He probably.
but still, with
that
2
part.
broken.
Yeah, it's still
To
so
play
cool.
with 2 broken hands, people don't
nuts.
play with broken fingers.
It almost made me put him over Paul Krause, to be
Yeah.
honest. I love that story so much.
I wonder what his fingers look like. I bet it looked like he was possessed by a demon. It was
Oh,
just
I
like,
bet
probably like
they're all
this.
like all over
Yeah,
the
all
place.
over
Probably
the place.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think he had they had a lot taped around him. Like
He's probably just having clubs.
he couldn't move them.
They're
Like his
probably-
hands were stuck like this. They were like
Oh,
just
so
so
it's probably
wrapped
more like
up
a
and shit.
like a baseball mid, huh?
So he's probably,
Kind of,
probably
yeah.
caught it like a.
Yeah.
I bet he scooped that motherfucker.
Yeah. Got to run his chest.
He body hugged that thing. But yeah.
So anyway, I thought I'd throw Larry out there.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, anybody else have anything to add on Larry Wilson before we move on?
No.
Well, I did the same thing. I also decided to put an old guy on my list,
And it wasn't ours.
and it wasn't either one of them.
We keep finding old guys.
I put Ken Houston on my list.
Yeah.
Good one.
Oh, I got
Yeah.
Ken Houston at 4.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Kenny Houston was good.
He was.
Yep, he had 49 career interceptions. Another guy we don't have tackles for. But everything I read said he used to fly downhill and obliterate guys. So I took their word for it, I guess.
We're gonna take a lot of people's words for tackles.
Yeah.
He did return 9 interceptions for touchdown. He also had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. He had 21 fumble recoveries in his career. So nice. He was he's a Hall of Famer. He's 12-time Pro Bowl, 4-time All Pro. He's on the All 70s team.
Did he play for the Oilers?
Yes.
Okay. Thoughts.
And
In Washington.
In Washington,
Yeah.
yes.
Gotcha.
So
Oh, I guess you got it pulled up right there.
Yeah.
I don't think I have much else to add, but he again played through 1980. So it's not like he's didn't play in any
40s
decent.
and 50s.
Him and Krause were
Right.
almost identical. Krause was came in just like a year or two before him and retired 1 year before him.
Yeah.
So they're almost identical. But, yeah.
Yep. He doesn't have any double-digit interception seasons. He does have a 9 interception season, but he grabs 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 interceptions a year pretty consistently for a while.
Yeah, I mean, till the very end, he's grabbing at least. Well, he does have that one kind of 2, but other than that, he's like 5. Most of the time. Yeah, I would say he's
Yeah.
not.
I think I remember watching a list about hard-hitting safeties. It was like a YouTube video, and I think he was on it. I think he was. It was like him and Steve Atwater and John Lynch and Ronnie Lott just killing people.
Oh, don't
Coming
forget.
downhill.
No, never mind.
And there was a few like Sean Taylor and Bob Sanders highlights, but I think Brian Dawkins was on it too. But it was just there was 10 of them, I think, and I think Ken Houston was on the list.
And you got to throw a little respect on these old guys too, because they were out in these deep, like cold weather, just street fight fucking battles, like
They were.
night after night.
There was no indoor stadiums back then.
Well, and
They
we
played.
talk about how these DBs beat up the receivers. It took these tough DBs to do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
no one could be out there. I mean, it is bad, and they got an advantage, but I mean, for them to go out there and just beat on them. all game. And
Well,
they
wide
were
receivers were allowed to fight back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You had to be
Most of the time we get
the
the-
alpha in that
As I
situation.
said, we get the benefit like the receivers and the quarterback, but they go out there and like do that, and they're coming after you too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the defense had an advantage because the offensive player had to fight you off and catch a ball.
Yes.
Well, the
Yes.
defensive player could just mug you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
but
and everybody clowns about Dan Campbell talking about biting kneecaps and shit. That's what these motherfuckers did back in the day.
Oh yeah.
That's what
They did whatever they had to
Get
back
eye
then.
gouges, bite your
They
kneecap.
pushed the limit, and then rules were made.
Yeah,
right.
as we
And
went
we have
along.
the rules we have now because of the way they played then.
yep, just like it's just like basketball with the '80s.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
and they just had to slowly make changes throughout time to make now the NFL is halfway to flag football.
Yeah.
And that's just the way
Yeah.
it's going to stay probably forever. And they're going to keep expanding games for money and making it softer and softer as time goes on.
Eventually, we'll
They
have
will
robots.
be an 18th game in the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh
I
yeah,
bet.
it's coming.
Oh, definitely.
They got to
coming.
make it an
There's-
even number.
They only added 7. They only added 1 because they had to argue the way to that. They've set it up
Yeah.
so the 18's coming.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It ruins looking back on things, I think.
It's
when you
making
keep
it way
adding
too long.
games.
I thought 16 was perfect.
Well, and it makes records so hard
Yeah.
It
because you're
does.
comparing a guy that played 14 games to a guy that played 17 games.
Well, Peyton's single season records are going to get broke now because of a 17th game.
Well,
All the records are gonna
the
get
receiving
broken.
records with an extra game and all that, those will get broken.
I
at
was
some point.
shocked no one passed Peyton's records last year, to be honest. I thought
Yeah.
like Mahomes or Allen or Herbert would someone's going to get it.
They're coming. I mean,
Yeah, they're coming.
Probably Mahomes or Allen or Herbert are going to break.
and eventually the
record.
receiving records. I mean,
Yeah, the only thing that's safe is the rushing records.
because no one runs
Yeah.
the ball.
Well, not only do they not run, but even the teams that do run, they have 3 running backs.
Right.
Yeah.
So
There's only like
We
2 or
won't
3.
have. There's no more workhorse running backs.
There's only a couple, yeah.
I mean, Derrick Henry's about the only one anymore, and he's not even what he was.
By the way, before we
Or
get
the
too
Jonathan Taylor
far
case.
away from Ken Houston, the reason I went with Ken Houston was he was also a kick and punt returner.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was decent.
Want to hear something really cool before we move on?
Yeah.
Joe Theismann, the quarterback, returned punts in the first part of his career.
He did.
and
Did
had
he
a
really?
10 yards per punt average return.
Yeah. When he
that's
was the
pretty-
backup quarterback for Washington, they had him returning punts.
He was good at it. Like, he was good.
He was an athlete.
Yeah.
I remember watching him do it.
Wow.
I'll watch a documentary on him, so no.
Fair enough. All right. Well, is that everybody's number 5 now?
Yeah,
And we have Ray's number 4, correct?
correct.
Anybody else have the number 4 off the list yet?
No.
No. I still need to say my 4.
All right. So Wade, who is your 4?
Brian Dawkins.
He's mine.
He's my 3.
He's my 3.
It's not on my list.
Well, fuck you, Ray.
You're welcome.
I mean, to be honest, no offense, Ray, but I thought Brian Dawkins was a good obvious pick.
Okay.
He was just, my God, what an animal.
I mean,
Yes.
the guy had 2 lockers, one for Brian Dawkins, one for Weapon X.
He was.
I mean, they said
psychotic out
before
there.
the game he would be in one, and then you saw him change over, and you don't mess with him after that.
When you think of the hardest hitters in NFL history, he's one of the guys that comes to name. He laid people the fuck out.
Yes.
So hard.
Yes.
It was unreal to watch him come across the middle and hit people.
I mean, I was watching a TikTok today of him mic'd up. I mean, he's just nuts.
When
He's
he
just
crawls
screaming.
onto the field
Yeah.
and like he's
mean,
going nuts.
He is one of the ultimate tone setters in NFL.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and his blackout visor, you can't see his eyes.
Yes.
That's scary.
that's why he's Weapon X, baby. He's ready to kill people.
I
like,
mean, he
we
did
just-
kill people.
Yeah.
The hit on Algie Crumpler is maybe
Yes.
the hardest hit I've ever seen.
I know. It is nuts.
It
like
is-
and Algie Crumpler is bigger than he is.
Yeah, YouTube it, Drew, if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I think I remember. I'll see it.
It makes my chest hurt to watch.
Oh, it makes you not want to play football. like it's
that freak
bad.
on the field. Like, yeah, it's so unreal.
Not only that, but he was the defensive captain for 2 different
guy's name?
franchises.
Algie Crumpler.
Yeah, he was a tight end for the Falcons.
a bunch of them came up. Like, I said Brian Dawkins hit, and then it's like 4 or 5 names just come
Yeah.
up.
The Algie Crumpler one is amazing. And in his prime, he wasn't a liability in coverage.
Oh, Dad's got it. For
Yeah,
over
he's
there. I
in
got
his
it for
pullback.
us.
It is.
Oh, he caught it. I don't think he wanted to catch it. Here we go, Alex. I
Yeah.
got it for us. Michael Vick.
Michael Vick.
Vic put him in a bad spot.
Slow motion
Oh,
is where
Just
Here it comes.
so much. This is great podcast.
Double
by the way.
move, double move by Collinsworth.
Dude, Vic's running down the field to apologize to her. He's like, my bad. He's like, my bad. He's like, there's no wind. He's like,
No, I mean, talking about Eagles' hard hits, though, the one worse than that is when Jeremiah Trotter hits Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush literally crawls on his hands and knees off the field.
oh yeah, because they throw like a little dump.
Yeah, a little screen pass, and Trotter obliterates him.
Well, I was watching some Brian Dawkins highlights, and he has others. I just don't remember all the damn hits.
Yeah.
But some of them are just nuts.
Oh, and he still has, even hard hitting, he still has 37 interceptions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mean-
Well, I mean, when he went to Denver, which he was in his mid-30s then, they played two high safeties. Like, he played high safety. It wasn't like
He was a great athlete.
Yeah, he was a really good athlete.
Him and Palomalu are extremely similar. They were best at coming downhill and disrupting things around the line of scrimmage, but they were competent enough to still play actual safety when they weren't coming downhill.
I mean, Dawkins was a green dot guy. Like Dawkins was a captain. He went out there. He made sure everybody was in their spots. Like, he was an intelligent football player. He wasn't just an athlete. He wasn't just
This crazy guy.
He was
Right.
better than Cam Chancellor.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
Cam
100%.
Chancellor is like this come downhill, knock the fear of God into you. Brian Dawkins was that plus more.
Yeah.
Like, he was.
Brian Dawkins also didn't get hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
he was also able to hit people without hurting himself.
I mean, he had like what, over 1,100 tackles,
1,100 tackles, yeah.
and almost 40 interceptions. I mean,
26 sacks, 19 fumble recoveries.
the sack numbers are actually pretty nice. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So if you have he has almost 40 interceptions. What was the sacks again?
26.
26 sacks and 1,100. That's pretty nasty.
Along 37 picks. I mean,
Maybe I put him too low on my list.
I think you did because I got him at 3.
Me
Yeah.
too.
the reason,
I think I might have messed
I guess
that up.
I'll go ahead and ruin my 3. I mean, the reason why I put him is because Palomalu had the Super Bowl.
That was kind of my thinking.
That was kind of mine.
Palomalu
Which
contributed.
We talked
to
about last week how
better
Brian
teams.
Dawkins got cheated out of his Super Bowl, but
Well, I also think, didn't Brian Dawkins play a lot longer than Palomalu?
I think
Yeah, he
Palomalu is like 12 years, I think.
Yeah, so I think some of the numbers are. I mean, Dawkins has great numbers, but I think he also played a lot longer than Palomalu.
Yeah, he played 15 or 16 years, sorry.
And does Dawkins have a Defensive Player of the Year?
No, he can't.
Palomalu does.
Palomalu has that.
No.
See,
Yeah.
Super Bowl and the defense player, I was like,
Yeah,
I like Brian Dawkins more.
yeah. I also have Palomalu at 3 because of the same things you said.
And I have Palomalu at 4.
Yeah,
So,
No, I have Palomalu at 4 as well.
yeah. I told you there'd be different differences between them.
yeah, that's the thing. Just flip flop those.
But yeah, they're both all-time great safeties. I don't think you can go wrong.
Yeah,
with
no.
them.
Well, do we want to talk about Palomalu for a minute since we have a bunch of us just brought him
Might
up?
as
Kind
well.
of transition. I figured that was who's going to be next.
Ray, do you have Palomalu?
I do.
Where do you have him?
3.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we just transition.
So we have 3 3s and 2 4s on Palomalu. So he's unanimous.
Yes,
He is.
Yeah.
Palomalu's in.
I think 1, 2, and 3 are all going to be unanimous. I hope so.
I hope the next two guys are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's who's 1 and who's 2, which
Yeah.
it's so tough.
It's just,
go
if you,
back.
if you look at the numbers, it's just like tiers.
Mm.
Like these two, then these two, and then you look at everybody else.
Yeah.
I have a very specific reason for my 1 and 2 that I'll explain when we get there.
Well, let's talk about Palomalu for
Yeah.
a minute. Who would like to speak, I guess?
Well, I just remember him being all over the field, kind of like Wade said. I mean, he was a kind of a 3-level safety. I mean, he would come down. I mean, we all know that play of him jumping over the line.
It's all
sacking the
time.
quarterback.
Yeah.
It's-
It became a thing.
He would
Yeah.
come down and hit running backs, but then again, he could also cover. I mean, he had how many interceptions did he have?
32.
32. So, I mean, not quite as many, but he's still in the 30s. I mean, that's
32 interceptions, 12 sacks, 7 fumble recoveries, 783 tackles.
Yeah.
I also remember a lot of Palomalu. One, he was maybe the best defensive player on some great defenses, which is an impressive thing.
Yeah.
On multiple was he there for 2 Super Bowls or 1? I don't
I think he was there for 2.
I don't remember if he was there for the first one or just the second one.
Yeah, well, if that's right.
Well, they won in what?
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah, he's there for
2005
2.
for the first
Okay,
one.
so he was there for
Yeah.
2 Super Bowls. And I always remember Palomalu making huge clutch plays in the playoffs. I feel like there was always a play of him doing something crazy in the playoffs, him making an important interception.
Doesn't he have an interception where he like runs back and forth in the field trying to run the clock out while he has the ball in his
Probably.
hands? Doesn't he do that at one point?
I think he just has. I think he has a bunch of big
He played well in the playoffs.
He did. He always came up with big plays.
And he was always telling other people where to go.
Yeah.
Like he would come up and tell a linebacker, "You go there."
And I don't think he was necessarily maybe like as hard a hitter over the middle as someone like Brian Dawkins or Steve Atwater. But when it came to disrupting the line of scrimmage, I think of Palomalu first. Palomalu did all kinds of crazy ass shit around the line.
He
of
had
scrimmage.
56 tackles for loss, which is crazy for a safety.
Yeah.
Like you're behind the line of scrimmage getting tackles, probably on a running back.
Yeah.
You know,
He was always doing something nuts around the line of scrimmage that were these big altering, changing plays to help his team win. And that's just what I remember most about Palomalu. And he could read a defense extremely well.
He's another guy that quarterbacks used to talk about. Like I would call out a play, and Palomalu would go stand where the ball was supposed to go.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like he knew his stuff.
You can't come down and disrupt the line of scrimmage as much as he did without knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like you have to be able to know, because if you just leave your safety spot and come to the line of scrimmage and you're reading the defense wrong, you're probably going to give up a touchdown because you're the last line of defense.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to know when to come down. He has to know what's going on. And yeah.
Yeah, he also has 5 career touchdowns. Just throwing that out there.
And off the field stuff, he had some great Head and Shoulders commercials.
He
still does.
Yeah.
That's another thing. He's iconic for his hair.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, that's
look
when you think
crazier.
about, like, even people that aren't big football fans are like, you know that guy for the Steelers that his hair was always run, you know, like, and people would talk about him.
I think it just kind of added to his persona.
It did.
This crazy, awesome football player with that crazy long hair.
I don't know about, like, Uncle Doug, you know, being a little bit older, you know, and, like, paying attention more to college at that point than maybe I was. But for me, Palomalu came out of nowhere. I had no idea who he was, and then all of a sudden he was like one of the best safeties in football.
Yeah, I don't remember him in college either.
I mean, it says he went to USC, which means he would have been on TV and stuff, but I don't remember him.
And that was right before the whole Reggie Bush. I mean, he'd been right there close to them.
Yeah, I mean, his first year was
Was he playing with like Mark
03.
Sanchez?
So I think that would have been early for Sanchez, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Sanchez.
Yeah, because Liner.
So when was his first year?
03.
So he would have been
College.
03,
He'd been in college in what, 02, 01?
01, 2000.
And what, they won their national championship in what, 04, 05?
He's there with Carson Palmer.
Carson Palmer,
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about Carson Palmer going there, to be honest.
Well, they had
Carson Palmer.
NFL quarterbacks like back to back to back to back. It was like Carson Palmer, Matt Castle, Leinert, Sanchez.
Yeah.
Like those were all NFL quarterbacks back to back to back to back. They didn't even have gap years. It was like
Sam Darnold was it Sam Darnold?
Yeah, Sam
he's a
Darnold
little
went there,
bit.
but he's a little bit
later.
after.
A little
those
bit later,
guys.
yeah.
There's someone in
There's
between him and someone else.
Yeah, there's someone else in there.
There's someone we're forgetting who got drafted and failed, I think.
Oh, it's Rosen.
Josh Rosen.
Oh,
Yeah, Josh Rosen went to the Cardinals. It was what, like the 4th pick?
Yeah.
I thought Rosen was like UCLA.
I think he was
Oh, you're right. Rosen was
yeah.
UCLA in the same draft as Darnold.
Right,
You're right.
yeah.
You're right.
Did Matt Barkley go there?
Matt Barkley
Matt
went there.
Barkley,
Yes,
yeah.
Matt Barkley
Exactly
went
right.
there. You're right.
Yeah.
Matt Barkley. Yep. Good call, Wade.
But yeah, doesn't.
No, but Palmer was really the cream of the crop out of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there were some years where Palmer was an elite quarterback. It wasn't consistent, but he had some. elite
Even
seasons.
those
Before the Steelers cheap shotted him and almost ruined his career.
He came back later on and had a couple nights with the Cardinals.
He did.
But
He did. It took him years to
His
get over.
career
that.
was just kind of
Yeah.
I mean, he had a couple of those years with the Cardinals, yeah, almost.
He had some great years there, and he had some great ones with the Bengals. There's just some bad years in the middle with injuries and the Raiders.
He was scared. Like he would talk about it like
Yeah.
after his knee injury, he would come back and like guys would just fall around him, and he would like just chuck the ball out of bounds because he didn't want anybody touching his legs.
And he was playing on a bad team. The Raiders sucked back then.
Yeah, the Raiders suck too. Yeah,
Didn't he briefly retire and then come back?
I think he did.
Because he made
Yeah.
an NFC championship with that Cardinal team. They got blown out by the Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he made the playoffs a couple times.
he was in the playoffs regularly.
They beat
but
Rodgers that one year.
Yeah,
Because he followed up Warner, right?
yeah, he did. So he was throwing to Fitz and Anquan Bolden, those guys.
Warner.
I think Bolden left, but I think
You
Fitz
you
was
might
still
be
there.
right.
Boy, yeah, Bolden was with.
Didn't they have like a Floyd there for a
Michael
while?
Floyd.
Michael Floyd.
They had like
yeah.
Steve Breston and
That-
Larry
oh,
Fitzgerald.
who-
and,
Yeah.
like
David
Beanie
Johnson,
Wells or
David
something.
Johnson
Beanie
was the
Wells,
running
yeah.
back during his heyday.
Yeah, I think he came a little later. Yeah.
All right, let's not get off on too much of a tangent here. We're talking about Troy Polamalu. Does anybody have anything to say about Troy Polamalu before we move on?
I think I got my point across. I just think he he accomplished a lot and really not a whole lot of games, to be honest.
So that's everybody's 5, everybody's 4, and everybody's 3.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now we just have 2s left.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
All right. I don't know who hasn't announced anymore. We've got to go on. But Ray, who's your 2?
Ed Reed.
He's also my 2.
He's also my 2.
He's my 2.
He's my 1.
Oh, okay.
So he's unanimous.
Unanimous.
I figured that's the way it was going to go.
Yeah. I like Ed Reed and Charles Woodson for some reason.
I don't dislike Ed Reed. I put him at number 2.
Very good reason.
Like,
Let's
So-
see. Oh, yeah. Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I like
He's older than you.
Famer. All
I like
2000
that.
I have a specific reason for swapping my 1 and 2 around. I'll explain it a little later.
Won Super Bowl with the Ravens.
he's an 8-time All-Pro.
Yeah. Let's see. 61. Am I in the right spot? Yeah, 61 interceptions.
64.
64 interceptions.
64 total, yeah.
64 interceptions. 7 touchdowns.
7
return-
touchdowns, yeah.
I think he's the all-time like yards leaders on picks.
He is.
Really?
He's like 3rd or 4th in touchdown returns.
Yeah, he might have the longest pick 6.
Because he has a couple, he does, and he also has a couple fumble returns. So he has like 9 or 10
Oh,
total
yeah.
touchdowns on defense.
So that hundreds.
Yeah, and he has the all-time record in interception return yards. My big thing is with Ed Reed. I mean, it's not a secret who the one guy is we have left, right? We all know who it is.
I don't think so.
Right.
Like, okay.
Oh, okay. Maybe it is.
Oh. Either way, I think I put Ed Reed at 1 over the other guy because, in my opinion, the other guy did more downhill tackling than Ed Reed did, but Ed Reed wasn't asked to do that. Ray Lewis did that.
Oh, yeah,
Ed Reed they just told him go play center field and don't let anyone get past you, and he did it, and he did it extremely well. And in my opinion, he's the greatest safety blanket of all time.
I think he's one. I think he's the greatest free safety.
Yes.
The other guy's the greatest strong safety.
I agree.
I would go along with that.
That's what I would.
And the other guy's first 4 prime years came at corner, not safety.
It's just, yeah.
And that's another thing to throw in there. And both Ed Reed, he made the top 10 interceptions list, and he only played like 12 years. Everyone else on the list played like 15 to 20 seasons, while Ed Reed made top 10 with like 12 seasons. And his ball hawking ability was unparalleled.
And once he got the ball in his hands, you were scared he was going to take it to the house because he was a dynamic with return. Well, he's a dynamic return man as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, it's just my opinion, but being the greatest center fielder / safety blanket in NFL history, I think is just a big deal. I do think the other guy came down and tackled more than Ed Reed, but I just think Ed Reed's ability to play center field better than maybe everyone else was just so valuable.
Especially in his era.
Yeah.
I mean, passing was really starting to get super happy.
Well, there's one team that consistently gave Peyton and Brady fits during their prime years with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, and it's the Ravens. The Ravens always fucked with Peyton and Brady, who were the big dogs of that era. And the Ravens were always contending for championships with those two because their defense, because Ray Lewis and Ed Reed could fuck with Peyton and Brady and Rivers and Roethlisberger and everybody.
Well,
they were so good.
They had 3 defensive players on those teams. They had Ed Reed, they had Ray Lewis, they had Terrell Suggs. I mean, all 3 of them
Not,
won
not only
defensive
that,
players.
but that was the time when Rod Woodson was there.
He was there early on,
Yeah.
But later on with the later teams, they had Elodie Naha, who was a defensive tackle, all pro. Back in the day, they had a bunch of other guys.
Saragusa and Adams were their big defensive tackles.
They had a great corner. Can't remember his name now. That's the early version of him. And then Ed Reed's not there with those teams.
That's true.
Ed Reed comes in with the second Super Bowl.
He comes right after that.
I mean, he's a veteran during the second Super Bowl,
Yeah.
but he comes a little after that first Super Bowl they win. Well, he comes in 2002. They won in like 2000. So, but
Yeah, I mean, he's there for the 2012 Super Bowl.
yeah, but I mean,
the Ravens' defense from when Ray Lewis gets there until he retires. I mean,
it's amazing. And then when they get Ed Reed, it's even more amazing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's this.
these first ballot Hall of Famers at the second and third
Yeah.
level.
That
It's more
defense was
dynamic
a
when
bunch
they
of
get Ed
killers.
Reed, I should say, because they were pretty unbelievable in 2000. They were one of the greatest defenses ever. That was just with pure physicality up front.
Yeah.
With Ed Reed, you couldn't pass on him. With Ray Lewis, you couldn't run on him. It was just you didn't know what to do, and that's why they were so successful with bad quarterbacks or mediocre quarterbacks. Because Ray Lewis and Ed Reed were two of the greatest defensive players ever.
I don't even really think that's debatable.
Yeah, you can make an argument that they're both the GOAT of their position, and they played together.
Yeah.
That's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, like I said, I if we're just going free safety, it's Ed Reed.
I agree. I would agree that the other guy's probably the better strong. Yeah,
I mean, of the guys we're talking about, Wade's kind of talked about it here. He does a little bit of different thing. I mean, we talked about Palomalu doing a little bit of everything. So I guess he's more like the closer to Ed Reed. But Reed was that center field type guy because he's not going to have he wasn't the tackler of Brian Dawkins and those guys. He wasn't flying around laying people out on a
Didn't
regular
have to.
basis.
he played center
Yeah.
field every
Yeah.
play. That's what he did. When he had to tackle, he was a big hitter. He just didn't have the responsibilities of coming downhill. And I don't know if because he was a little smaller than some of those other guys. I don't know if his body could have taken the pounding that Dawkins and Palomalu did.
Yeah. He might need to go on the Bob Sanders route there.
You know, Bob Sanders only played like 50 games in his whole career.
Really?
It's that bad.
Wow.
It's something around there.
It's just
I didn't
I
realize
mean, that sounds about
I mean,
right.
Because he was a human torpedo.
Oh,
and
he was.
Yeah, he
destroyed
was.
his body in no time. Yeah, only played like 50 games or something close to that. It's something insane like that.
All right. Well, I guess we probably move on to the rest of the room's number one, or at least some of our number ones. I guess I shouldn't say that. Uncle Doug, who's your number one?
Ronnie Lott.
He's also mine.
He's my number 2.
he's my number one.
He's my number one.
Yeah. How about to say Ray?
Ronnie Lott.
Oh, Ronnie Lott. I mean, we talked about him quite a bit in the 49ers Mount Rushmore episode.
He's leaders of the defense during this dynasty. I mean,
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
we all know the story of him cutting off his pinky.
Well,
Nobody would do that.
we were talking about fierce hitters.
Well, I don't think Ray does because
Here,
Ray
refresh
just.
my memory.
Okay, well, in a game, Ray, he hurts his hand. And then they say you either have surgery and you'll be out like 10 weeks or something. And then it says, or we can cut it off now and you go back in the game. He cuts it off. So he doesn't have his one pinky.
Yep, that's why he's fucking number one. Yeah,
He was a badass.
He was.
That's legit. I like that shit. Yeah.
10-time Pro Bowl, 7-time All Pro, 4-time Super Bowl champ, All 80s team, and All 90s team. He's got 63 career interceptions,
Yep.
so 4 less than Ed Reed. Sorry, 4 less than Ed Reed. He has 5 return for touchdowns, so 2 less than Ed Reed.
But 1,146 tackles.
Yes, he has about as many tackles as Brian Dawkins.
Right, one less than Dawkins.
Yeah. He was. Well, I mean, that's why he's held in such high regard. He hit like Dawkins and Palomalu and picked stuff off at an Ed Reed rate.
Yeah.
or
Right.
Just below an Ed Reed
Yeah.
rate.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's to be honest, he might be the biggest hitter ever. Maybe he fucking ran through people. It was unreal. You watch his highlights and the hits he puts on people. Him and Dawkins and Atwater, I would put at the top. To be honest,
Yeah.
Those
They're
three.
just amazing.
I mean, Atwater took out the Nigerian Nightmare. That hit alone puts
Yeah.
him in the
Yeah.
fucking territory. We already
Yeah.
talked about Dawkins, and Lott was just as big a hitter as those guys. Oh my goodness, he hit so hard. It was whew. Bad.
He has 500 tackle seasons.
Yeah.
Plus, he led the league in interceptions twice.
Well, I think some of those came at corner. He was a corner tackling like that.
Yeah.
Like that first 108 is a corner.
See,
That might be the only
the
corner
first
one.
the first 4, I think, are cornerback.
Yeah.
And then the 5th year, I think he played some of both, and then after that, it was safety.
Yeah. And then he goes a bunch. He goes a while without it, and then he has 3 at the very bottom when he's not even with the Niners anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raiders and Jets.
And that 123 tackles?
That's insane.
Well, either you're just being a complete and total badass, or your team is hot garbage.
Yeah.
It's the Jets in '93.
So yeah,
So,
probably
yeah.
hot
They
garbage.
probably sucked.
Yeah, they could have been bad.
Well, let's
I don't
find
really
out.
know, but
They were 8-8.
oh yeah, so
It's not as bad as I thought they were going to be.
but yeah, he was a machine.
And their starting quarterback was Boomer Esiason.
No.
Boomer. He's becoming a podcast celebrity.
Yeah.
We have some of those sometimes.
Hey Boomer, anytime you want to come on the show, bro, just give us a call.
Right. You can leave your your Sunday gig and come on the pod if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
that
that get us some ratings, boys.
Have us come on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Was he on Fox or CBS?
CBS.
CBS.
Oh yeah, CBS. Yeah. Good old Boomer.
All right. Well, that's it, right? That's all of our safeties.
Yeah. I think we got 7.
7
total.
of them.
Yeah.
Before we discuss
You're right,
anymore,
Alberto.
I want to say something. I think if Sean Taylor didn't die, there's a chance for him.
He was very talented.
He was,
I think he had the potential to be
It's a possibility.
just.
I think if Harrison Smith finishes career strong, you can make an argument for him.
yeah.
He's got some pretty nasty all-around numbers already, and he's still playing. His biggest problem is he didn't get as noticed as much because he played on a very up-and-down franchise throughout his
Yes, the
career.
Vikings
But
are
he was
very-
unbelievable safety for a long time in the NFL now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Sean Taylor's numbers here. In 4 seasons, he had 12 interceptions, so an average around 3 interceptions a year, and he had 300 tackles in 4 seasons. So,
Decent.
yeah, I mean, here's my thing. I'm not going to talk bad about him. Sean Taylor was very talented. He was a very good safety, one of the best safeties in the NFL at the time. But as a society, when somebody dies, we overinflate what they were doing at the time.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, that in sports, and movies, and music, we do it to everybody.
Well, no one ever put Kobe in the GOAT debate until after he passed away.
Yeah,
Now
Yeah.
it's a thing. Now,
yeah,
now a lot of
it's
people say
everywhere.
he's
It's
in the GOAT
everywhere.
debate.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there now that are like, oh, it's not a Michael LeBron debate. It's a Michael Kobe debate. And I'm like, nobody debated Michael and Kobe until very recently.
Everybody loves Kobe. It's no disrespect to
Yeah.
him.
No,
I'm
it's
saying
not.
nothing like that. Yeah.
I'm a Laker fan and I love Kobe,
Yeah.
but he's not the GOAT.
He's just not quite to Jordan. He's number 2 easily at shooting guard. It's not even close. He's just not quite Jordan.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. They do that with all kinds of people. But Taylor was super talented and could have went down.
He hit hard too.
But-
He did.
He was a big play guy. I think he grabbed a lot of people's attention.
yeah.
He was a big attention guy because he knocked people out and he would make these crazy athletic plays, and he could have been something. Bob Sanders also could have been a great if he could have stayed healthy, but that was never going to happen. That man never played.
Somebody I really liked was, I mean, you brought up Cam Chancellor earlier, but the actual good safety that played for that
Thomas.
team is Earl Thomas.
He was really good.
He was good.
He lost his mind.
Every time I would watch a receiver get off a Sherman jam and run by him, Earl Thomas would come out of nowhere and pick the ball off or knock it away, and I'd be like, "What? This guy is so good in center field."
But the crazy part is the reason he's not in this conversation is because of himself.
Yeah.
After Legion of Boom
He
blew
went
up,
totally crazy.
he lost his mind. Was it at Baltimore?
Yeah, he went to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he played like a year and was still awesome. And they kicked him off the team for him acting like an idiot. And he's never played again. He ruined his chance at being an all-time great safety
he
by
did.
acting a fool.
Because he was the best one on that.
He was the best safety in the league, I think, for a
Well, I
little
think
bit.
he was their best defensive back. Sherman could only
was.
play one side of the field. Cam Chancellor could only hit.
Yeah.
He could do it all.
Yeah.
Thomas played
Right.
the Ed Reed role and still came down and hit more than someone like
Yeah,
Ed
he
Reed
only
did.
played 10 years, and he had 713 tackles,
What was his interceptions?
30.
That's still good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if he plays 15, 16 years like some of these other guys, we're talking over 1,000 tackles and probably 40-some interceptions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for a defensive back, that's all-time great numbers. That's
And he's on an
Dawkins.
all-time great defense where everyone's making. And you have Bobby Wagner making all those tackles.
Yeah.
Like,
And Cam Chancellor
Yeah.
was stealing tackles from him, and Sherman was, Sherman only played for turnovers. He played underneath everything and would steal all those passes underneath. He'd play super physical and then play underneath to cut the route off, and Earl Thomas would come over top and
Yeah,
play
because he
safety.
knew he had great safeties
Yeah.
behind him.
Yeah, when
So,
when you know you have safeties behind you, you get more physical.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can be much more aggressive.
Absolutely.
You can
It's like
undercut
having a great shot blocker behind you when you're a guard in basketball.
Yeah.
You can get up in somebody's grill because you know that they'll erase stuff for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
They take care of your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
What are Harrison? Real quick before we transition, can you look up Harrison Smith real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I just want to see what his stats are.
He's been good for years.
He has. He's been so good.
Yeah, and he's on his downhill decline, but
He
he's still solid. All right, he has 989 tackles. He has 34 interceptions. He has 19 and a half sacks. He has 8 fumble recoveries. He's returned 4 interceptions for touchdown.
So he's already almost got 1,000 tackles already,
Almost, yeah. He'll have 1,000 tackles by the end of the season unless he gets hurt.
and his interceptions were in the 30s,
34.
34.
and he had 19 sacks.
Yep.
And he's got 3 this year.
I'm about to say fuck Paul Krause, put Harrison Smith on there, huh?
And he's in his 12th season.
Yeah. So maybe if he can play a few more and tack on some extra numbers, that'd be nice. If he can get to 40 interceptions and 20 sacks, that's pretty unreal.
You said Harrison Smith?
Yeah, it's his name.
Yeah, that's him right there.
I only have like.
Scroll down farther.
Scroll down to
That's his
his
game
game
log.
Oh, gotcha. I was about to say they throw
Yeah, the
me
active
off.
players, they had their game logs.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, just last year when he was 33, he had 85 tackles and 5 interceptions.
He only played 14 games.
Yeah. I mean, he's just been so good for so long. And
He's
he
got
does,
45 tackles for loss.
he does everything. He literally just does everything. I've always just really liked him.
If he played for the Cowboys, he'd be so famous it'd be ridiculous.
He'd already be in the Hall of Fame. They'd already fucking shoot him in.
They'd have his jacket waiting.
Yep.
Well, you never
Be
know.
ironed out on a hanger waiting there.
Trade deadline's not up. You never know.
But if I was them, I would be trading Cousins and Smith and Hunter and anybody else that I could get stuff for. Because they are garbage, and you can get one of these quarterbacks coming out if you suck enough.
Yeah, Caleb Williams or Drake May. Or that's his name, Drake
Yeah,
May?
Drake May.
Or Michael Penix or
Yeah,
Bill
I would
Nix.
say
There-
a lot.
There's a bunch of them that could be.
I saw a stupid mock draft the other day that had Deion Sanders' son going like 3rd overall in the draft.
What?
No way.
I was
Third overall.
It was 3rd or 4th. It was
Maybe
one of the
3rd
two.
round.
I was just
Yeah.
like,
If
whoa.
he comes
That's some
out.
blasphemy.
I was like,
right
where'd
there.
that come from?
Third overall.
Let neither one of them come out.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, they're going to do another.
I think the quarterback, Deion's son, it will.
Shador will stay.
Yeah, he's gonna stay and come back next year.
They like predicted him going 3rd or 4th overall to like the Broncos or something like that. It was just all projection based on how the season's gone so far.
He's also making more in an NIL deal in college than he'll make on his rookie contract.
Yeah.
He's making more per year right now in college than he will for his entire rookie contract in the NFL.
He's making
So it'd be
like over
stupid to
4
come out
million.
Yeah, he's
anyway.
making over $4 million.
Yeah, it's like 4.6 million already or something like that.
Yeah.
Or something. It's something close to that.
It's insane.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's narrow down our safety list, gentlemen.
Here's where we're at.
3 that are in.
We have
Lott,
3
Reed,
in.
Polamalu.
Yeah, Palomalo, Reed, and Lott are all in. So-
Dawkins has got 4.
Dawkins has got 4. Yes.
Ray, do you want to come to Dawkins or do you want to talk about
Let's talk about it for a second.
it? Okay.
And let me defer to the old feller over here, Doug. I have 2 old fellers on my list, Ken Houston and Paul Krause. Who do you think is the lesser of the 2?
Ugh. Well, I don't have either one on my list, but they were both.
They both played almost the exact same time, too.
Yeah, they did.
This comes down to kind of the Ronnie Lott, Ed Reed argument. I think Krause was probably the better free safety, and I think Houston's probably the better strong safety. Krause has got quite a few more interceptions, but Kenny Houston could hit.
What is the interception difference?
It's 49 to 81.
To 81.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Who had 81?
Paul
Krause.
Krause. I mean, he's the NFL
He's the
leader.
all-time leader in interceptions.
Yeah. So I
think that makes
probably.
no
I
sense.
mean,
Okay.
Krause.
That's what I said
if
the whole
had-
Vikings episode.
If I hadn't picked Larry Wilson, I would have picked Krause.
Who's Houston with me?
Me.
Is Ray going to screw Alex over for the second week in a row?
Well, it's not like we're screwing anybody over. We're on an island with each other.
Maybe this will help decide. I'll move my Larry Wilson to Paul Krause.
Okay.
Perfect.
Eliminates Wilson.
Well, eliminates Wilson anyway.
Yeah, that'll take
So-
Wilson out because Paul Krause was my next guy.
Okay.
And I wanted us to talk about Larry, and we did. And I also fought hard for Paul Krause in the Vikings episode.
You did.
Yeah.
So I really should.
God, that still haunts
I
me.
should. I should be there for him now.
I'm just joking.
Okay.
John Randall still hasn't showed up yet, so I'm good.
Son of a bitch. God, I wanted that man on. I don't even remember.
No, you wanted Raiden Moss on. You didn't want Chris Carter
I
on.
didn't want Randy Moss on. I was proving a point that he's better than Chris Carter. So Chris Carter shouldn't be on. God damn it. I'm just joking.
So I guess that's what we're doing, Alex.
I don't know why there's a we in this. I haven't said anything yet.
Well, I'm just saying because I'm busting ship here.
Well, give your opinion real quick then.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, before I make final, what's going on?
I don't know.
Why Houston over Kraus? Just what was your thinking process?
I kind of decided that, I read all these articles on all these old guys that were supposed to be really good.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh man, you mean there's like top 15 safeties of all time, and 8 of them couldn't play in like the last 2 to 3 decades. So I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. I'm like a bunch of really slow white guys that can't play.
There you go.
So I was like, this is wonderful. And I was like, well, Wade will side with me because Wade hates old white guys. So I was like, that's the thing. And then Wade's like, no, I really like this old white guy. And so I was like, man, I got left on an island with Ray, who then immediately dumps me for the second week in a row.
I'm actually
like
an
a
old
whore
guy
at the
supporter
prom.
this so far in
That's
football.
right. You have.
81.
I'm on the Johnny Unitas train in the Paul Kraus.
81's a big
I'm
number.
turning the corner. I went to rehab, guys.
Yeah, he's gonna vote for Bob Cousy next.
No,
I know better than that.
Oh,
81's a big number.
yeah, I just thought the all-time.
Ask Kobe. 81's a big number.
And
Yeah.
Kraus and Houston played the exact same time, almost.
They did. I think really, in all honesty, first off, Kenny Houston's not an old white guy.
Right.
First off. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But
So,
Kraus also had 32 more receptions.
no, that's
Whatever it was.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, in an era, strife with quarterbacks that threw the ball to the other team 3 times a game. I was like, well, I won't take the interceptions as seriously, so I went with a guy that was known for taking people's heads off in the middle of the field. So I went with Houston.
Houston was a good safety, isn't it?
Oh, he was. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I did.
It's like the ship's on fire and I'm jumping in the water.
By the way, other than Dawkins, no great nicknames.
Yeah.
I was disappointed.
what were Ed Reed's nicknames?
You'd think someone like Palomalu and Reed would have cool
Or
names.
Ronnie Lott? I mean, any of those guys.
Well, I saw when we were doing the quarterbacks
Ed
episode
Reed has
last
none.
week, and they had Peyton Manning pulled up. There was a nickname I'd never seen before. It was Pay Dirt.
Yes, I saw Pater.
I was like, who the fuck called Peyton Manning Pay Dirt?
Yeah.
I've seen the Sheriff, and there was another one I'd remembered. I don't remember what it was. And it said Pay Dirt. Like,
Ed Reed and Ronnie Lott have no nicknames.
Yeah,
Really?
none
That's
listed on
shocking.
here at all.
I figured Palomalu would have one like on his hair.
I
Yeah.
don't think he had any either.
That's
That's so disheartening.
Yeah, Troy Polamalu has none.
these all-time great safeties have no nicknames.
I could have sworn someone used to call like Palomalu like the Tasmanian Devil or something like that.
But then we're in basketball. Charles Barkley, who has like 20.
There was a lot of guys that
Yeah,
had
basketball
decent
has a
amount.
ton.
A lot of them you don't know about either. Like Elton Brand had like 5.
Yeah.
I don't even know what any of them were.
There was their
like-
main one, maybe a second one, but after that, we're like, who calls them this?
Yeah. Well, like one of Elton Brand's was like slant,
Yeah.
or like there was a couple fat jokes in there. Like it was just like okay,
There was a bunch of fat jokes from Barkley.
yeah,
Pizza Prince or whatever. Like,
the Prince of Pizza.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was one.
I mean,
Alex.
Dawkins is in, so that gives us our 4th one.
Ray made his move.
All right,
So what were you saying, Drew?
Come on. Come on over. Come to my boy.
you're the only one left.
Come on. Come to my guy.
You know,
Your-
it's gonna go to
your
the board.
guy.
That's my guy. That's
Your guy.
my white guys. Paul Krause,
Paul Arizin.
Paul Arizin. I mean,
You liked a bunch of goofy white linebackers in the last football segment too.
they were great guys.
They were. The one guy had like a cajillion tackles for the
I mean,
Broncos.
he had over 2,000
But then he was like,
tackles.
you know what? Junior Seau sucks.
You
And
did
we're-
have an anti.
And we were just like
Seau thing.
dumbfounded by
He's
this.
overrated. Overrated. See if he shows up in the linebackers. See if he shows up on my list.
I bet he shows up on at least one or two.
Oh, no, I know he will. It's okay.
This is gonna be ridiculous. Oh my goodness!
I just don't see the hype.
I don't see the hype.
If you shit on Say Out, I'm putting Emmitt Smith and Terrell Davis.
Oh man!
Oh my god!
This is about to get real over here. All right, I'll come off Houston and come to Kraus.
Alrighty.
Thank you, sir.
No, and
Good list, I think.
I think so.
having 81 interceptions is really impressive.
Hard to get by.
So,
So our 5 greatest safeties of all time are Paul Krause, Brian Dawkins, Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, and Ronnie Lott. I'd say that's a pretty motley crew right there, boys.
think-
Indeed.
I think that's the right list. I think that's good, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even if you would, take one or two of these guys off and replace them, you can at least see where our argument's coming from here. So,
The top 4, I don't think, I mean, those are just the 4 greatest safeties ever.
I agree.
And then I think the number 5 spot, I looked at 4 different guys. I looked at Larry Wilson, who I ended up saying, Paul Krause, who we went with. I also looked at Kenny Houston, who you had, and looked at Steve Atwater, who we've also
yeah, Steve Atwater,
I like
yeah.
Steve Atwater.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think number 5 could have been any of those 4.
I agree. I really wanted to put Atwater on mine.
Yeah, I looked at Atwater for a while today, just trying to be like, dude, I want to put him at 5.
He just hit.
Oh,
He
yeah.
hit so. God, he tackled. And he was the leader on the defense of 2 Super Bowl teams,
Yeah,
which means something.
that is a great point. Well, I do believe that will end our safety portion of this episode and lead us into what if. By the way, just so we're aware, guys, Steve Atwater's nickname is the Smiling Assassin.
Yeah.
I forgot that.
I like that
officially pointed.
nickname.
And he has an October birthday.
Hey, there we go.
I almost said something. Bro.
And he is Jeremy Chin, the safety for the Panthers' uncle.
Oh.
So, yeah. And he went to high school in Missouri,
Sweet.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lutheran North, wherever the hell that is.
right, it's in St. Louis. I ran against them.
Yeah, Drew ran against him in track.
Yep.
Yep, it's in St. Louis.
Kind
Did y'all beat them?
I did. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, a couple
Nice.
times. Yeah.
That's good.
I beat them. Their coach talked to me. I think until I told him I was the senior, then he kind of backed off.
Mm.
Because they're a private school.
Drew just had a nice little flex on the podcast.
They've had
Yeah.
Drew flexes every once in a while.
they've had 7 NFL players go to their high school,
Oh, wow.
but Steve Atwater is the only one I've ever heard of.
Still cool.
One actually, a guy named Ronnie Perkins, is a defensive end this year for the Denver Broncos, is from this school.
Wow.
So
There's a lot of people that make the NFL.
that is true. There is like 63 guys a team, and they go through players quite a bit.
Still, they'll make the NFL.
Even if you just make a practice squad, you're a badass.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're an
yeah.
animal.
I personally know somebody that made from here that made the Ravens practice squad.
There's a guy that went to school with my wife that has he stayed in the NFL on practice squads for like 8 straight years. That went to Monmouth.
There was a Culver guy that hit the Texans.
He was on the Titans.
He's on
Titans,
He's on
Titans,
Titans.
yeah,
I think he
Titans.
still is.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy from where my wife is from, I think he was on, I think like 6 or 7 different teams in the 8 years he was on the practice squads. But and then now I think he's a coach, I think somewhere. So I mean, he survived from Monmouth. That's kind of cool. I thought.
Hell yeah.
I think he was a quarterback.
Oh, Alex Tanney.
I think
Yeah.
that is him.
I met him. Yeah, I went to his quarterback's camp. He was
Yeah.
backup for Eli
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drew
when
went
they
to
had
the
their Super
quarterback
Bowl.
camp.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, I mean, Q&D produced a Super Bowl champion.
Right.
So
Yeah.
And that's
true.
it's pretty cool.
We got some badasses around here.
Yeah.
Good old
Had some good athletes.
Northeast Missouri here.
Yeah, that's right.
Flex on you, North Dakota.
All right, let's go into what if, and I do believe this what if is coming from Uncle Doug.
Yeah. Well, last week when we were doing our quarterback segment, we ended up putting Steve Young on our list. And Steve Young was kind of an interesting guy because he was offered just an insane contract by the USFL to not go to the NFL. So he spent his first couple years in the USFL. And my what if is, what if he doesn't do that? If he goes straight to the NFL from college, which would have put him in, I believe, the 1984 draft class.
I think it's 82.
84 is the year he got drafted. Like,
Is the 84 is the year he joined the NFL?
So
Oh,
okay,
so
so
82. Okay.
82.
Sorry.
82. Let's look at the 82 draft. The
Yeah.
number one pick is the New England Patriots. I think.
It is.
Yeah.
Who did they select?
Cincinnati doesn't. Isn't that who you think it is, Dad?
Yeah.
Cincinnati doesn't have a pick till 26.
The article I read said that they thought he was going number 1 to Cincinnati.
Well, here
Well,
I've looked into it a little bit.
why don't you look at? Well, let's look at his college and see what his last
What's
year in college.
BYU?
Well, in 1979 and 1980, Cincinnati has the number 3 pick those years.
Yeah, I guess it depends on. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know when he. Yeah. But the one year they draft Anthony Munoz.
Oh.
So, like, you don't want to replace.
No,
Right.
you want him.
No.
You need your staple left tackle for the next.
You need maybe the greatest offensive lineman ever on your team.
He was a bad mofo.
He was.
Yeah, so he's going to be their tackle till 92. And it's 1980.
Yeah, that's true.
Let me go to College Football Reference and
Yeah,
see
I'm going to
when.
have to look here.
I've looked on College Football Reference. It's interesting. Just looking at like how like everyone's career is shorter, so it's like weird comparing everybody. Like
But I can't find any year that the Bengals had the number 1 pick.
Steve Young played at BYU from
80 to
81,
83.
81 to 83, so he came out in the
He'd been
83.
in the 84 draft.
What the? You just saw it on my page.
Yeah.
It said that he entered the NFL draft in
Yeah.
1984.
Well, he entered, I think.
Right, but he turned it down.
Oh, okay.
So he entered and
Well, what's the first year he plays for the
He
Bucks?
played in the Bucks in 85. He played for the LA Express in 84, 85.
So
it
in
says the Bucks in 85, so
Right,
it,
so,
so
he
it
played-
is
played
the
his
80.
first 2 USFL season wasn't the same as NFL season.
so the 84 draft, the first pick is New England,
Yeah, and like I said, the Cincinnati doesn't have a pick till 28.
but the first quarterback
Or
taken
16, actually.
isn't until the second round, where Cincinnati takes Boomer Esiason.
Okay,
That makes sense. Okay.
That's why what I read said that they thought Cincinnati would take him.
A quarterback was not drafted in the entire first round of the draft,
Right.
and Boomer Esiason is taken midway through the second round.
38th.
So basically what the what if is if you replace Boomer Esiason with Steve Young.
Okay, well, let me pull up Cincinnati.
That's what we're boiling down to.
Wow. All right.
Very interesting.
So he doesn't go to the USFL. He goes here instead.
So in 84 on, we're talking about Steve Young playing for the Bengals.
Here's the thing I was reading. It said it was taken for granted that Young would be the first pick of the 1984 draft, selected by the Cincinnati Bengals, who were 3 years removed from the Super Bowl, and had landed the number 1 pick in a trade with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, the Bengals still had Kenny Anderson, and they had planned to have Young set behind Anderson for 84 season before taking over in 85. Young found that unappealing, which opened the door for LA to make him the monster contract pick.
Well, the receivers in 85, which we said he was going to sit behind. So this
They thought that he would sit behind Kenny Anderson the first year and then take over in 85,
and he had,
which is what they ended up doing with Boomer, right?
yeah, because Boomer plays in 85, and he
Yeah.
throws for 3,400 yards, 27 touchdowns, 12 picks, runs for 80 yards and a touchdown.
It's pretty nice for back then, actually.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good season, actually.
I mean, Boomer was.
He wins an MVP, doesn't he?
And goes to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Eventually, yeah. Which, I mean, we all know what Steve Young can do.
Because both their quarterbacks, their best quarterbacks, both made a Super Bowl.
Well, they
and both
almost
won an
had
MVP.
2,000-yard receivers, Eddie Brown and Chris Collinsworth.
Chris Collinsworth was actually good.
Chris Collinsworth was
He
good.
annoys me on TV.
Yeah, that's
But
why
he
was a good
but he's a good
receiver.
receiver. I mean,
He
he had
was.
1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, and Eddie Brown had 942 yards for 8 touchdowns.
Didn't they have a good running back at some point?
James Brooks is their running back here. He ran for 900 yards and 7 touchdowns, but he also caught 55 passes for 576 yards and 5 touchdowns. Their fullback ran for 700 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Sounds like they had a good overall
A
backfield.
decent team. I mean, this team only won 7 games though. They went 7-9.
They don't go to the Super Bowl too. We said what, 89?
Yeah. But on defense, they have a guy with 8.5 sacks, a 9, 2 3.5, and a 4, or another 3.5. So I mean, they were.
Oh, they had some talent.
I mean, and then they also have the best left tackle in football.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes down to if they're actually competent, unlike how the Buccaneers were when Steve actually got into the NFL. If they're competent and he develops the same way he does later on in his career with the 49ers, but he does it earlier on with the Bengals are probably a really good team. But Boomer was also really good when he was there. But I think the big thing is, does the upgrade to Steve Young give them a chance to win a Super Bowl?
Well, I think the other thing is when does the upgrade take effect?
Yeah.
Because we don't know anything about Steve Young in the NFL.
Right.
Because he didn't play.
Oh, he ran for his life. When
Well,
he got
I
playing
mean, his
time.
first 2 years,
Tampa Bay.
and then he sat on the bench
Yeah.
for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, we don't. When does he become star Steve Young?
Right.
And when was he not rookie overwhelmed Steve Young? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as long as it takes that quarterback a couple years to actually become a really
Sure.
good, especially then.
Right. So with Boomer, when did they get to the Super Bowl?
89.
And it was against the 49ers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So think if you have the same progression for Steve Young, and you got Steve Young playing against Joe Montana in the 89 Super Bowl.
That would be cool.
That'd been insane.
That would have been fun to watch.
I mean, if he doesn't get killed while he's in Tampa, he's got Anthony Munoz, which, of course, Steve Young's left-handed.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's
true.
right tackle.
Who is Joe Walter?
You would grab Munoz and say, "Get the fuck over there."
They'd figure something out.
You're going to right tackle. Come on.
But-
You just flip the O-line.
Yeah.
At that point, the right tackle is basically the same thing. He
Right.
would protect.
Well-
He would go whichever side he had to go to protect.
So we're kind of looking at Boomer versus Steve Young, which we all put Steve Young in our top 5 quarterbacks all time.
Well,
We didn't even end up with Boomer on the Mount Rushmore of the Bengals, did we?
no.
I think we went with Kenny Anderson.
Yeah.
maybe.
So
Yeah, I
I
think
think
we
there's
did.
obviously a large difference between the
Yeah.
two.
I think we all definitely think Steve Young's an upgrade.
Right, but Steve,
just his progression.
he is an upgrade. I don't think it's even a question. But it's when does that upgrade take effect?
Right, yeah.
Because Steve Young technically doesn't have those great years we talked about until in the 90s somewhere.
Right.
So, like, and I'm not saying it would have taken him that long if he was actually playing to be good. But, you know, I assume that he probably would have been good by 89.
I think
You know.
even in his real life situation, I think it's just after 89 where he starts starting quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think they win the Super Bowl in like 89 or 90, and then he's starting by like 91 or 92 or something like that. I think it might be 91. So I think if he goes to the Bengals and not Tampa Bay, and then he gets the chance to fully start and not sit behind Montana, I would say he's probably developed by 89 if he's drafted in 84.
Who's a rookie in 89, Uncle Doug? For these Bengals.
Here we go.
I'm
Go
not
down the
sure.
rabbit hole here.
He has he runs for 1,000 yards and scores 15 touchdowns.
Shuffle?
Oh,
The Iggy Shuffle?
Icky Woods.
Icky Woods.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a nasty read option with Icky and Steve Young.
That's another thing. Steve Young brought an athletic element to the running back position that a lot of teams didn't have back then, and they definitely didn't have with Boomer.
In 89, they had James Brooks, the guy that's been their running back the whole time I've been on here. He ran for 931 yards and 8 touchdowns. And then Icky Woods ran for almost 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns. So they ran the crap out of the ball in that season. Almost had 2,000-yard rushers.
Boomer still threw for 3,500.
Yeah. He also threw 14 picks to 28 interceptions.
Wait, what? He threw. Say that again.
Threw 14 picks and 28. Oh, I said that backwards a minute ago, didn't I? He threw 28 touchdowns and 14 picks.
Okay.
You said 28 interceptions.
Yeah, I did. I switched it
14
earlier.
touchdowns and 20 interceptions, and he was considered good?
Yeah, that's my bad. That's my bad.
That's a lot.
But by this time, Collinsworth is gone. Collinsworth was bad a couple years before this, and then he's gone. He doesn't even bet on here. But I don't know any of these guys that played defense for them.
Yes, I don't know anybody on their defense. The only one I was thinking about was Ken Rye, but he's too too early.
Oh, he's
He's got in the Hall of Fame though.
I saw that.
Yeah,
a lot of the players we talked about in the Mount Rushmore stuff just got in.
That was crazy. Ken Riley, Zach Thomas, Darrell Rivas.
Yeah, all got in.
Just got in.
Right after we talked about him in the podcast.
So the 88 season and the 89 Super Bowl is when they went to the Super Bowl. So it's actually coming off the 88 season.
Okay.
But at the 89 season, they go 8-8, finish last place in their division, and don't even make the playoffs. The very next year.
Wow.
I mean, they're the Bengals.
And there's always that Super Bowl thing. Everybody raids your team when you make the Super Bowl, win or lose.
Well, the loser of the
You
Super
lose.
Bowl usually has a terrible year afterwards.
Yeah.
It happens frequently.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say always, but it is a frequent thing that there's usually after you lose the Super Bowl, there's usually like this little curse or slump for like a year.
Well, it's 'cause it seems like a lot of people jump ship and go other places, so they get paid.
They lose coordinators and some of their important
and you
role
lose the
players
Super Bowl, so it's like you don't feel like you got as much out of it.
and your body just took a pounding playing all the way through the playoffs, and then you got to turn around and start the
Do it
season again, and
Well,
it's just hard.
Here's another little twist to this. Okay, say Steve Young develops, and say they knock off the 49ers in 89, but they have the fall off like Alex is talking about. Okay? But Steve Young is not there to replace Joe Montana, which Joe's not done when he leaves the 49ers.
Right.
He goes to Kansas City and he has a couple good years.
Yep.
So does Joe Montana then replace that Super Bowl with one of the ones that Steve won?
Maybe.
And maybe another one? I mean, does he still end up with 4 or maybe 5? Because they keep him and he stays in that same offense?
Maybe. I think it's possible.
Right. I mean, because the reason he loses his job is because he gets hurt.
Yeah.
And Steve Young comes in and plays really well.
So then they
go ahead and trade Montana.
But
if he doesn't, if there's nobody there that's good behind him, he'd probably get his job back.
He's having a bad year, and then he's back.
He's back.
Yeah.
Here's what you got to think, though. When Steve, unless I have my years mixed up, I might. Steve Young gets the starting job. It takes him a handful of years before he can get to the Super Bowl because they keep running to the Cowboys.
I think you're right.
Yes,
That's true.
I do think
I'm not sure.
Montana's last one and Steve Young's first one, there is a gap
There's
there.
a gap.
Because it's that 4-year span when the Bills go and they never play the Niners.
Yeah,
Is that 4
never
years? They
know.
play the
Yeah.
Cowboys, they play the Redskins,
Oh,
the
that's
Giants.
right.
They don't play the 49ers. 49ers don't get back to like 94, 95.
The Cowboys and Aikman and the 49ers and Young were kind of like Brady and Peyton. Brady was Aikman and the Cowboys, and they fucking ruled that shit and always beat Steve Young to get to the Super Bowl all the time. And then that one year, Steve Young finally gets them. It's the year they get Dion to come in and help on the defense. They get past the Cowboys and win the Super Bowl, but they have to get over the hump of the Cowboys, I believe, in order to do it.
because it's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah, because they're
Because people give Steve Young a bunch of shit for not being as good as Joe Montana because he can't make... Because he doesn't. It takes him a few years to win a Super Bowl.
Steve Young doesn't win his until 94, and Montana won his last one 89.
And is Montana retired by 94?
Yeah, where's Montana? 'Cause he only plays a couple years with KC, doesn't he?
Yeah, like
Yeah, 2 years, I think.
So I think he's retired by the time they're able to get past the Cowboys. And I don't know if old man Joe Montana
Right,
is as good
can
as
do it.
prime Steve Young. Because Steve Young was maybe the best quarterback in the league during that point.
Montana's last year in the league is 94.
Oh,
So that would have been
yeah,
his last year in the league.
that would have been-
Where he went 9-5 with the Chiefs He threw for 3,200 yards and 16 touchdowns on 60% completion. I mean, so he had a decent year.
Right.
Well, he wasn't garbage. I don't know what the route to the Super Bowl was for the 49ers that year. I assume they had to beat the Cowboys at some point.
Look up Steve Young's numbers and in that year he wins the Super Bowl and just see what kind of numbers he put up for them to make it and win the Super Bowl.
Okay. He threw for 4,000 yards and 29 touchdowns and had a 68% completion percentage. Through 16 picks.
He led the league in completion percentage and touchdowns and touchdown percentage. In 94, he has 35 touchdowns.
No, it's not the 94 season. It's the 94 Super Bowl.
See, the next year, 94, he was even better.
Yeah.
He threw 70% and 35 touchdowns.
So it was 93. Okay, 93.
Yeah, 93, yeah.
Which is 10 interceptions.
So he led the league in touchdowns 3 years in a row. Right there,
Yeah.
bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Then he's leading the league in completion
Could beat
percentage
him in the
almost every
MVP.
year too, and QB rating almost every year.
He lost the MVP to Emmett.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Give it to my boy, Steve.
Emmett had
Or Jerry.
1,500 yards and 9 touchdowns, plus he also had 400 receiving yards and 1 touchdown.
You got to be kidding me.
I was expecting like 18 touchdowns or 20 or
I was
something.
expecting like
not 9.
1,800 yards.
So he has about 1,900 yards and 10 touchdowns total.
I mean, that's a super nice season.
It's a very
I was
nice
expecting
season.
more to be an MVP touchdown wise.
Jerry Rice had 1,500 yards receiving and 15 touchdowns.
Wow.
Give it to Steve or Jerry, not Emmett.
Yeah.
It's probably because they played on the same team, so they probably split votes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that does happen quite a bit. Elway had a pretty decent year. Elway threw for 4,000. He actually threw for 7 more yards than Steve Young. He threw for 25 touchdowns, which is 4 less, but he only threw 10 picks, which is 6 less. Oh, there's Aikman. He came in 5th.
Oh, boy.
What'd he do?
3,100 yards and 15 touchdowns to 6 picks, and he ran for 125 yards.
So let me guess. So Emmett won it, and Aikman was in top 5, and they had a combined 25 touchdowns. Are you shitting me right now?
And Steve had how many?
My boy
Them
Steve.
together didn't equal Steve Young's touchdowns.
Together.
My boy Steve had 31.
And Steve didn't get it.
America's
nuts.
team.
Or Reggie, or Jerry. I mean, Jerry was unbelievable.
Jerry had 15.
That's crazy. Aikman and Emmett's touchdowns combined don't equal Steve Young.
Cowboy bias.
That's funny shit.
Another reason why Emmitt Smith, overrated.
He ran for 1,500 yards, which is very nice. I'm not knocking it.
No, that's
He ran for 1,500 yards, and and 9 touchdowns, which again is solid.
Emmett's
but it's not.
production isn't really the one I'm shitting on right now. I'm more shitting on Aikman.
Well, yeah.
You can't be 5th in MVP voting and putting up worse numbers than Daniel Jones. Get the fuck out of here.
It's a different time period, Wade.
Worse than Jay Cutler.
I've seen one that. Well, did I send it to the group where it said Joe Flacco is better than Troy Aikman?
Yes, you did. So
So Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler has better numbers. We went over this tons.
Like, at least Emmett was probably leading the league in rushing or close to it. Aikman with 15, big old 15 touchdowns, less than 1 per game. Pretty fucking good to me. Jesus.
Well, here's this, okay? So the next year, Steve Young wins the MVP, okay? But Barry Sanders
Yeah.
has 1,900 yards and 7 touchdowns, plus he had almost 300 yards receiving and a touchdown, and he gets blown out of the water for the MVP voting. So he had a better year than Emmett did the year before, and Steve Young runs away with it.
One place for the Lions, one place for the Cowboys.
You could argue that Barry's more impressive because he did it on the Lions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true,
The
yeah.
worst franchise maybe of all time.
that's just crazy.
And Jerry Rice has 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns and gets 1 vote. 1 vote.
I bet Cowboy fans hate this podcast. Despise
I
it.
don't know any Cowboy fans that listen to us.
We
to be
tell it
honest with
probably
you.
why. We tell it how it is.
Hey, and shout out to the Detroit Lions. They're fucking 5-1, guys.
Yeah.
Now, you want to hear something crazy? Yeah. So, in 1995, Emmett comes in 3rd in the MVP voting.
Okay.
He has 1,800 yards and 25 touchdowns.
That one is nice.
That one might be the year your cousins talk about. Getting the ball down there and handing the ball to Emmett.
Well, he had the touchdown record before he got broke like 4 times in a row.
But 25 rushing touchdowns is impressive.
That's very
It
nice.
is.
That's super impressive. Say what?
So who were the other people ahead of him?
Favre won it with 4,400 yards, 38 touchdowns, 13 picks.
That is pretty nice.
Jerry Rice came in second with 122 catches for almost 1,900 yards and 15 touchdowns.
Wow.
And then Emmett was third. And then Jim Harbaugh from the Colts came in fourth with 2,500 yards and 17 touchdowns.
2 more than Aikman. 2 more than Aikman.
2,500 yards, wait.
25. How did he come in fourth in the MVP voting?
Because he's the comeback kid, remember? Remember the episode where we found out he was the comeback kid?
Oh my goodness. He has negative. Oh, that's receiving. He has negative 9 receiving yards for the season. I thought I was rushing at first. I was like, no way, he has negative rushing yards.
See, I can't. Jerry Rice was that guy.
Oh,
Jerry Rice was a beast. He's on every single MVP vote.
yeah, he should be.
I mean, we go from 15 to 19. Oh, that one shortened season didn't happen. He had 2,000.
Well, didn't he have in the shortened season, he broke the touchdown record.
Yeah,
He had like 22 touchdowns in both games.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. He was.
That's why when like people talk about Randy Moss having the touchdown record, it's like, does he really?
yeah.
He has
Sorry.
one more
You're right.
in 4 more games.
Jerry was that guy.
Oh man, Favre won 3 straight MVPs. And he won Favre threw for 3,800 yards and 35 touchdowns with 16 picks and won the MVP when Barry Sanders ran for 2,000 yards and 11 touchdowns and then had 33 receptions for 300 yards and 3 more touchdowns.
One of like the 3 greatest rushing seasons of all time. That's what that was.
Yeah.
2,000 yards on the Lions, baby.
And Terrell Davis had almost 1,800 yards and 15 touchdowns. Steve Young, again, appears on this one. This is 97, by the way. Steve Young threw for 3,000 yards and 19 touchdowns with 6 picks. It seems like a more down year.
That's nearing the end of his career. He's only got 2 years left after that.
Yeah.
Well, his second to last year might be his best one. The year after that, the one you just named, he throws for 4,100 yards and 36 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's not on the MVP list in 98.
What?
Nope.
After leading the league in touchdowns?
Terrell Davis wins the MVP for rushing for 2,000 yards and 21 touchdowns.
Okay, that's understandable.
Randall Cunningham is second with 3,700 yards and 34 touchdowns with 10 picks.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Jamal Anderson is next with 1,800 yards and 14 touchdowns.
Okay.
And Randy Moss is fourth with 1,300 yards and 17 touchdowns. And nobody else got a vote.
The guy that had the most touchdowns of anyone didn't make that.
No votes for him.
Oh, well. Those were all pretty impressive stat lines.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We kind of went off on a tangent here, gentlemen. But I guess what we're saying is, do we think Steve Young can get the Bengals a Super Bowl?
There's a chance.
I mean, he has to go. He either has to go through Montana or he's got to go through the Cowboys team. Essentially, he's got to go through one of them.
I think there's a chance for him.
I'd say having him improves their chances, but I honestly, I'm not 100% sure if he does win.
Yeah, I know.
No, yeah, I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying for sure. Yes, he wins one. I'm like,
If I
There's
had-
a-
Because I really can't name anybody else on the team other than Munoz.
Right, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we know who Chris Collinsworth is just because of.
But it's only for a couple years, and then he is done.
The hard part is yeah, they go to the Super Bowl that year, but one of the Bengal years they get spanked. I don't know if it's the Anderson year or the
We
other
looked
year.
it up earlier. They were both close, actually.
Were they?
Yeah, the
Maybe
one
it
was like.
2 other games then. I thought one of their games
I was
a
thinking
blowout.
they got blown out.
That's what
once,
I thought,
too.
but
did too.
when I looked it up earlier, they were both close.
Oh,
I mean, you could be
okay.
right. I
I
thought,
don't know.
I just thought one
Yeah.
of them was a blowout, but maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether Cincinnati would get it or not. I mean, whether he's enough of an upgrade to
That's
get
what
him
I'm
that
saying.
win.
Because he has to
But-
beat an all-time great team.
I think it probably affects San Francisco more than it does Cincinnati
That could be true.
because Cincinnati drops off anyway, and he probably would still be there. But who's going to play quarterback for San Francisco later if he's in Cincinnati?
And then if the 49ers have to draft a guy and he's a bust, what does that do to Jerry Rice's numbers?
Yeah.
Last half of
very
his
true.
career.
Jerry Rice have that big of a cushion on all the all-time lists at the second half of his career is with a shitty quarterback? I don't know.
Does he even stay?
You know, I mean, yeah, because he leave earlier.
Right, he may go someplace else to.
Yeah.
The 1982 Super Bowl, 26-21 Niners.
That one's not bad.
So, it could be a difference, maybe not. But it could have a big impact on the 49ers down the road.
I think it would really affect, the more I think about it, I think it would really affect Jerry Rice. Because,
He got 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks to keep him going.
and then his third quarterback with the Raiders was an MVP in Gannon.
That's true. Yeah, Gannon did get an MVP. I forgot that.
With the Raiders, with Jerry Rice, putting up record numbers, he was dominating.
Well, Steve Young's backup was Elvis Gerbach. We all know Elvis Gerbach.
Yeah, we
Not
do.
for good reason.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying he was a stud. I'm just saying we know who it is. Like,
Yeah, the 49ers ain't winning the Super Bowl with Elvis Gerbach.
But right after Steve Young is Jeff Garcia, who was pretty good for him after that. But
yeah,
he's
Jeff Garcia was good.
He's early 2000s.
Right.
So there'd be a nice gap there if Steve Young's not there. There's a decade between Montana and Garcia.
The
Right.
1989 Super Bowl, 49ers win 20-16.
They were close then. You're right.
Yeah, both were close. Okay.
It's that Chargers one that we all remember.
That could be. I could have been thinking.
I'm sure the 49ers will blow out somebody
I
else.
thought Montana blew the doors off a couple
Yeah.
teams. I thought one of them was the Bengals, but no, I was wrong. I don't even remember who they beat in the other 2 Super Bowls. But anyway, I think having Steve Young ups their chances, but if I had to pick yes or no, I still think, I don't know.
I think no.
I'm leaning towards no, but it's a lot closer than I had it in my head.
Oh.
So maybe.
The other Super Bowl, the other blowout, it's the Broncos. They beat them 55-10.
That's the one I'm thinking.
They
Yeah,
wear
that's
orange
the
too, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
basically,
Wrong team.
taking the money was the right choice for Steve Young.
Yeah.
Because this going to Cincinnati would probably hurt his legacy.
I agree.
Because he probably wouldn't have the Super Bowl he's got. And it would probably hurt the 49ers.
Well, and he doesn't get to develop with Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Steve Young would have sucked without Jerry Rice, but it certainly helps
Yeah.
having the greatest receiver of all time.
Yeah, in 1999, Jeff Garcia plays 13 games for the 49ers.
Didn't they get Garcia out of the Canadian Football League?
I believe you're right.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's where they went and got him.
Well, then that's also around the time they get T.O. And then T.O. and Garcia's careers take off.
Yeah.
Did Steve Young throw to T.O. at all?
Yeah, I think he did.
I thought he did.
Yeah.
I thought it was a couple.
They have a famous play where
'Cause
Steve
they're-
Young fits it to a small pocket and it's like a playoff game.
Yeah, it is.
or
It's a playoff game against somebody, yeah.
He gets creamed by 2 defenders, and Steve Young has to fit it to this tight little pocket, and then T.O. actually catches it, and I think they win the game.
Because that's his only catch at the game.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
T.O. is dropped.
T.O. plays for the 49ers from 96 to 03, so he's there with Steve Young for a few years.
Yeah, I thought that T.O. and Rice played together for a while.
Now, he starts off a little slower, but his second year in the league, he has 60 catches for 900 yards and 8 touchdowns.
So he's getting there by year 2.
Yeah,
T.O. had a long career, too.
he did. Yeah, T.O. played a long time.
Yeah.
He kind of snuck up on you when you, or at least for me, he kind of snuck up on me towards the end of his career. He was clearly slowing down. I was like, what is he slowing down for? And then I was like, I'd look it up and I'd be like, he has been in the league a long time.
Yeah,
Even
I guess I kind of looked at the receivers already just to see how interesting it was. I was like, dang, I didn't realize he played that long.
Yeah.
He did. Well, even as an old man, he had a couple 1,000-yard seasons at the end of his career.
But we've talked about what it does for the Bengals and what it does for the 49ers. I guess here's the other question is what does it do to Steve Young's legacy?
Probably hurts it.
Yeah.
And definitely knocks it down.
That's
I mean,
what Uncle
he's
Doug
not
was
he's
just
not winning 2 MVPs, 2 Offensive Player of the Year. We're not guaranteeing Super Bowl wins.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would say he probably gets an MVP because Boomer gets an MVP. So I would say there's a good chance he might be able to squeak out an MVP, but I have a hard time giving him a Super Bowl because he has to go through an all-time great 49ers team or an all-time great Cowboy team, and I don't think
He's
their
also-
team.
Yeah.
He's also got to get through the AFC.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. And we know he gets one with San Francisco, and it's iffy whether he gets one with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he would have to go and, beat a lot of good AFC teams. I mean, you have to beat those Bills. Maybe beat those
Right.
Bills
Yeah, beat the
teams,
Bills teams,
or whatever.
We know the Steelers have good defense, and they're in their division.
The Steelers came
Yeah.
alive in the 90s with those
Yeah,
teams.
they did.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about you're either beating, like Wade said, the Dynasty 49ers, you're beating the multi-time Super Bowl Giants, you're beating the Hogs in Washington, or you're beating the Dynasty Dallas Cowboys.
The Raiders won a Super Bowl in the 90s, I think, too. In the early 90s.
Did the Raiders win one
I
in the
think I
90s?
got one, like, was it, maybe it was late 80s or early 90s. I think I snuck one in there, I thought. Maybe. Because wasn't that the team Howie Long was on? It was like 1990 or 89 or something.
I'm not sure.
They won one in 77, 81, and 84.
There was no 91?
They got to one.
They got more than 3 Super Bowls. There's no way, right?
No,
Unless
they've
this is-
been in some other ones.
Maybe with the NFL championships they have more than
Because didn't Gannon go to a Super Bowl? But they lost?
They lost to
Yeah, they lost to the Bucks.
they lose to John Gruden when he was with the Buccaneers. That's in 01. Because that's in between the Rams appearances. Because the Bucks are fighting you guys in the NFC
Right, when
there.
the Bucks had that great defense.
Well, they traded for John Gruden and then won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Because they had Tony Dungy, and everybody was like, Tony Dungy can't get over the hump. Because he built that wonderful defense with Lynch and Barber and
Sapp.
Brooks and Sapp and
Yes,
all those guys on defense, and they couldn't get over the hump on offense. They traded for Gruden, and Gruden didn't really make their offense good. He just made it
enough.
good enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like it was. It kind of reminded you of the that early Ravens championship.
They're
Well,
right there.
Dilfer got his
I mean,
too.
they're both right there together. I mean, Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson have got to be two of the worst quarterbacks to win. But they
Yeah.
have two of the best defenses.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
Of course, Brad Johnson's and his son now the quarterback for Texas A&M.
yeah, and his other
And his
son.
other son's the tight end for
Yeah.
A&M.
really, I didn't know that.
And Trent
Yeah.
Dilfer is head coach at UAB.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dilfer's a coach now. Yeah,
'Cause we were watching an A&M
We
game
were watching.
the other
We were
day.
watching A&M in Alabama, and they showed Brad Johnson. He was at the game, and his one son's quarterback, and the other one's tight end.
And his friend sitting next to him in the box was Jason Witten.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you got Johnson and Witten, quarterback and tight end, and the two boys on the field playing.
Nice.
So, do we have anything to add about our what if here?
I think we covered it pretty good.
I think so too. All right, well, that will end this episode. We appreciate you tuning in for this safety episode. We were happy to do it. And we would. Oh, crap. I don't know what's next week.
Is it tight ends?
Tight ends.
No, it's
No.
not.
Oh, interior lineman.
I surely don't.
Well, rate, subscribe, send us some emails. That would be wonderful.
Interior line.
Oh, and tune in next week for our interior offensive lineman. That will be an interesting one. And thanks for tuning in to Sports the NEMO Way.